of time, but it's not now. Sometimes you gotta go uninvited. Sometimes you gotta speak when you don't have the blood. Sometimes you gotta move when everybody else says you should say, no way, no, not today. You want an answer, sometimes you gotta stand apart from the crowd. Long before your heart could run the risk, you were born for this. Born to trust you, made to lay my life before you. Sometimes you gotta speak when you don't have the blood. Sometimes you gotta move when everybody else says you should stay. Move, not today. You gotta ask if you want an answer. Sometimes you gotta stand apart from the crowd. Long before your heart could run the risk. You were born for this. You were born for this. You were born for this.
Hi, ladies. Yes, you were born for this. Oh, I love that song. I could listen to that song over and over. So I got my boots on still. Once I start going today, we are going to rock and roll. We got a huge day. Tons of stuff to cover that I have prepared for you. So just hang tight. And oh, Dasa, let me help you with that. Come here. She brought some crocheting today, but it's kind of in a knot. And so I want to help her. Oh my goodness, Hadassah. I should have helped you with this before the show. Well, you might just spend the whole show getting this knot out, kiddo. It is so awesome to have you here on Shabbat. Today is, February 24? Yes, but the biblical day is actually the 12th month and the 7th day of the 12th month. And it is the year 6017 from creation. All right, and Purim countdown. How many days do we have before Purim? 7. So Purim is next Shabbat, and then Purim Shushan is Sunday, which is when we're going to throw our party for the local people. Just so you know, I will throw this gum out in a minute. I'm just enjoying it, so don't worry. I'm going to chew like a cow the whole time. I'm not. Let's see. So yes. So if I have a choice between doing a feast on Shabbat or Sunday, which I think Purim is one of those that I have the choice, I will always choose Sunday to do the big party because it's more work. I don't need to do that on Shabbat if I don't have to. So anyway, so yes, we're going to talk about we're going to briefly discuss Purim today, some of the just some things that make it really important for us to celebrate and why I think that Melchizedek priest should be celebrating this. Whole bunch of celebration ideas. Anyway, ladies, this is Hadassah, just so that you know. Again, if you're new to this show, I am going to introduce myself in a minute, but just so you know, this is mommy and daughter, Rebekah and Hadassah, who was named after Queen Esther. Yes, we are going to talk about Queen Esther in just a little bit. All right, so Shabbat Shalom, ladies of Teshuvah. This is Hadassah here, loving to read her scriptures in the candlelight on Erev Shabbat. She loves to do that, and just part of our table with our juice and stuff during Erev Shabbat. So Shalom, Shalom. Now I have something for you that I'm going to try this time. I found a few things online this week that I'm going to actually try to play for you. So I love this little clip. It's called the Bible Project. It's a Bible Project YouTube channel, and they have these really cool little, I don't know, I'm just going to play it and show you.
Morning and evening, Jewish people have prayed these well-known words as a way of expressing their devotion to God. They're called the Shema. Hear, O Israel, The Lord is our God, the Lord is one. And as for you, you shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your strength. We're going to look at the third key word in this prayer, how Israel is called to love their God. But what does that mean? Love is a very common word in most languages, as it is in ancient Hebrew. It's pronounced ahava. It most basically refers to the kind of affection or care that one person shows another. It sometimes describes physical affection, like the king of Persia's love for Queen Esther. But there are other Hebrew words that more specifically refer to physical desire or sex. Ahava is more broad. So Abraham had ahava for his son Isaac. That's parental love. Jonathan showed ahava for his friend David. That would be brotherly love. In fact, a whole group of people can have ahava for their leader, like when the Israelites showed love for their King David. Ahava can even describe loyalty between political allies, like Hiram, the king of Tyre, loved David. They had good relations, and so Hiram wanted to help David's son Solomon build the temple. These are all different kinds of affection described with the one word, ahava. Now, all of this is helpful for understanding God's ahava in the Old Testament. So in Deuteronomy, Moses told the Israelites, God showed affection for you. He chose you because of his ahava for you. So God doesn't love because the Israelites earned it or deserve it. It simply originates from God's own character. He loves because he loves. This is why Jeremiah can say that God's love is everlasting. It has no end because it has no beginning. God's love just is an eternal fact of the universe. And God's love is not a duty. It's a genuine feeling, an affection that God experiences. This is why the prophet Hosea compares God's love for his people to a husband's ahava for his wife, or to a parent showing ahava for their child. It's one of the strongest things that God feels. But that doesn't mean that God's love is just a feeling. God's love is also in action. It's something God chooses to do. Like when Moses says, because of God's ahava for your ancestors, he brought you out of Egypt with great power. God's love isn't just a sentiment, it is something God does. And so, in the Shema, Israel is called to respond to God's ahava by showing ahava in return. And just like God's love, human love is to show itself through actions. Like in Deuteronomy 10. What does the Lord your God ask of you except to fear the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, to love him and serve him, and to keep his commands? All of these actions are centered around love. If I'm not doing them, I don't actually love God, I just say I do. Which leads to one last thing. In the Old Testament, I show my love for God by how I treat the people around me. In Deuteronomy, we read that God defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and he shows ahava for the immigrants among you, giving them food and clothing, and so you also show ahava for the immigrant. So the people are to imitate God's ahava by showing ahava for others. This is the idea underneath the famous line, you shall ahava your neighbor as yourself. And so at the end of the day, all of this is rooted in God's own eternal ahava. Like we read in the New Testament letter of 1 John, we love because God first loved us. And that's the Hebrew word ahava.
So I thought that was perfect for today because we're going to talk about Purim, about love. And so it's just so fun. But one thing, of course, I would do in there is I would love Yehovah your Elohim with all your heart, all your soul, blah, blah, blah. Not just love the Lord your God. So you got to remember, you're going to transliterate when you read the scriptures. You probably all know this already, but in case you don't, just remember when you read the scriptures, when it has capital L and small capital O-R-D, they've taken out the name and you want to put it back in, because as we're priests, we're going to restore what's been taken away, right? So we're going to put back in his name. And so the verses and texts like that need us to transliterate and make it say his name. So when you speak it, do that. So welcome to a show dedicated to transforming your head knowledge. Hadassah, drop your head for a sec. All your study into heart knowledge. I just love that picture. Ballerina, I think, is perfect for that. And a show that inspires, I want to be a breath of fresh air. I'm aspiring to be a breath of fresh air. And a show hoping to lighten you up so that you can enjoy each other and enjoy your Elohim. And a show seeking to give you permission to be the beautiful Iser Kenegdo that Yehovah created you to be. And we're going to talk about gifts and talents. And we're also going to talk about Purim. I got lots of decoration and celebration ideas for you. Pictures. Okay, so stick around. We're going to go through that pretty soon. I think, yes. Okay, your host, Rebekah. So I just thought I'd throw in different pictures here from my photo album so you can kind of see, you know, I don't know, my life a little bit. I guess this is Isaac and I when we pretty much got first. Actually, I think we had a kid by then. I know Isaac's watching right now. I think we had babysitters here where this was like a little honeymoon for us, the anniversary thing that we did. Anyway, a long time ago, many years ago. But I am the happy hippie Hebrew girl. I've been Isaac's wife. In case you don't know, I know there's a lot of new ladies that said they were coming today. So I've been Isaac's wife almost 20 years. We're have our 20th this summer. I've been his friend for 35 years. We've been friends for 35 years. I think we know each other really well. I began our journey, Isaac and I came out together. We began our journey out of man-made religion at about 33 years old. And, I've been a mother for about 18 years. Melchizedek Feast diva for 10, and she's been my Melchizedek Feast sidekick diva, haven't you? For a very long time. And I'm executive director of Teshuvah Ministries for the last 5 years. And I've hosted, just so you know, I've hosted over 200 biblical feasts for Yehovah Elohim. And one fun fact about me, just throwing one little fun fact about me in case you care. Just sharing. I know it's always interesting to know about another person's life, and so I'm going to share this, share different things once in a while. So I've been to Borneo, Malaysia. I was a missionary there for a little while, and I went as a girls director. I had about 35 girls that I was in charge of. Went to the jungles of Malaysia, and I've got stories, trust me, tons and tons of stories. And I did vacation Bible school over there, but I'm not telling stories today about that. But one thing that I thought someday I will tell stories about. All right, so we are going to begin by inviting Yehovah's Ruach. I think I'll get rid of my gum now. Is that okay? I know Maggie's probably going, "What, Mom? I can't believe you did that on TV." Or TV on the show. I don't care. We're going to invite Yehovah's Ruach. We're going to say, not the Shema this morning together, but we're going to say the Lord's Prayer that is called the Avinu prayer, the prayer of the Father, prayer to the Father, excuse me. And this time I rearranged, if you're new here, this is something we've been doing, and this time I rearranged it so that we're going to kind of put a little bit more together and try to say a little bit more at the same time. So the prayer to our Father is that Yeshua taught us to pray is really cool. So I wanted to know what it was that he actually said, not what the translations say. So I studied Keith Johnson and Nehemiah Gordon to find out what it is. And here is the, this isn't the actual Hebrew words, obviously. This is how you pronounce it. So our Father in heaven, may your name be sanctified. So Avinu Shabashamayim Yitkadesh Shimcha. Avinu Shabashamayim Yitkadesh Shimcha. May your kingdom be blessed, your will shall be done in heaven and on earth. Ve'it barek melchutha, retzencha yihe ya'esui bashamayim uva'aretz. Give us our bread continually. V'titein lachmenu t'midit. V'titein lachmenu t'midit. Forgive the debt of our sins as we forgive the debt of those who sin against us or those that wrong us. Umechol lanu chatoteinu ka'asher anachnu mohalim lachotim lanu. You got that? Let's do that again. Umechol lanu chatoteinu ka'asher anachnu mohalim lachotim lanu. All right, and the final verse, do not bring us into the hands of a test. Please, Papa, do not bring us into the hands of a test. No, Papa, I'm done with those. V'yal tivi tinu l'dei nitzion. V'yal tivinu l'dei nitzion. Protect us from all evil and peril. This is super important. Protect us, Papa, from all evil or peril. V'shom rinu mikol ra. V'shom rinu mikol ra. It ends right there. It doesn't have the ending that we are familiar with if we grew up in the Christian church. So, Yehovah Elohim, I ask that you come and be with us today here in this little room here in the library. And that you, just dwell here with us, each one of us in our homes, and with Hadassah and I here in this little place that we're trying to broadcast from to the ladies of Teshuvah and their families. I ask for your Ruach HaKodesh to come and fill me up with her words, with your words. Oh heavens, I'm tired, I know, Papa, so give me strength and give me energy. I love you with all my heart. I mean, I felt like I just needed to pray. All right. So I have some deep thoughts to share with you today. I have 2 deep thoughts to share with you today. And I am going to rock and roll today because we have so much to do. I've got so much to show you, and Purim is coming up really fast, and we haven't really spent a whole lot of time on that. But I wanted to bring up a couple things that I feel like we need to talk about. I'm so sorry. She's going to spend this whole time taking the knot out. Oh, baby, I'm sorry. All right, so number 1, my first thought, one of my 2 thoughts today. One is, okay, so I want to bring something to the king, but I don't know what my gift is. Now, I have heard, because last week, remember, we talked about gifts and we talked about bringing to the king on his coronation day something that you have done, that you've spent your time doing. So I want to bring something to the king, but I don't know what my gift is. I've heard this a lot with people, ladies especially, that don't know what their gifting is, and so they're like, what am I supposed to do? I don't even know. I don't know I see you do all this stuff, Rebekah, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do because I don't see my gifts and callings. I believe I have a way of looking at the gifts and talents, and I'm just gonna kind of show you what that is a little bit. But this is a perfect thing to talk about at Purim or during Purim, because as you're going to see, when you discover what Purim is and you look at what the dress, how important the dress is. You know, when we show up to the great wedding feast, we're supposed to have the wedding garment on, right? And there is a garment that will please him, and on that garment he wants you to ornate it, and it's all like the idea of ornating our lives. He wants to put his splendor on us so that he can show us off to the nations. So those gifts are what you're going to actually adorn yourself with. The gifts that he has given you, you're going to adorn yourself with those gifts. And so this is a perfect time to unpack that and kind of look at that. And I'm telling you, I'm not going to do the full unpack today by any means, but I'm going to get your brain thinking a little bit, I think, about this. The gifts that you have is the splendor that the king wants to ornate your bridal dress with, to show you off to the nations. So in order to enter that great wedding feast, there's a dress that you have to wear, a garment that you need. Otherwise, if you don't have it, you'll be thrown out where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, just like Yeshua said. And so first we got to figure out what that dress is, and then the idea of ornating it. And Yehovah is very clear in the scriptures that he wants you to sparkle and shine, and he wants to show you off to the nations, and he wants to have his glory seen through you. All right, so are there, one of the questions that was mentioned was, are there other gifts than those in the scriptures? And of course there are. And here's you're going to get this Prezi. So there's a link here that lists a whole bunch of spiritual gifts and definitions and stuff. But honestly, well, let me read this. 1 Corinthians 12:4-5 says, there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Ruach. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. 1 Peter 4:10 says, each one should use whatever gift he has received to serve others, faithfully administering Elohim's grace in its various forms. And then Romans 12:4-6 says, just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not have all the same function, so in Yeshua, we who are many form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace that is given to us. So clearly the scripture shows that there's a variety of gifts, a lot. And you go look at that list, and it's really, really huge. But this is the thing, is I'm no expert in spiritual gifts, trust me, and that's not really what I'm talking about when I'm talking about what I was talking about last weekend as to what you're going to bring the king. So what I'm really talking about is, what are you skilled at? What are you trained to do? What do you love to do? What do others say that you're really good at? What do they recognize in you? What have you been practicing your whole life that you do over and over, and you do it really good because you've done it over and over so much? What do you spend all your time on? What do you do that no one else can do? And what unique twist do you put on the talents and the skills. So say you're a piano player. Well, there's a lot of piano players, but what uniqueness do you bring to that? You know, so I'm hoping that you will not overthink this. I'm really wanting to not spiritualize the spiritual gifts idea. I'm talking much more tactile and practical than this. So for examples, to bring to the king and what you're spending your time on. Because like I said last week, I fully intend to show him, to give him, to bless him with things that I have spent a huge amount of my time on, a huge amount of my life on. A lot of my energy, my life's energy goes to creating things for his kingdom and for his purposes, and I fully intend to you know, offer those and put those at his feet when he comes and he's coordinated as king, and just to lavish gifts on him, to say, this is what I've been doing with my time, Yeshua, you know, while I was waiting for you, this is what I did, you know, and, you know, to be able to show daddy to papa, you know, and I you know, I mean, what kid doesn't want daddy and mommy to say, oh, that is so cool, well done, I'm so excited, I can't, you know, and Hadassah does these, you know, I look at it and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. What are you going to make? How's it going to look when you're all done? And when she gets it all done, I'm so excited to show her how much I love what she's been spending her time doing. So something, for example, okay, a scroll that we made, that I made for Shabbat. So Erev Shabbat, here's a little prayer. So what we used to do is pretty long, but it's a little Shabbat prayer. So Erev Shabbat, we would pass this around to our guests. And so everybody at the table would get to read a paragraph of the Shabbat scroll. I'm just showing you some examples, okay? So here's a little game that we made in the teepee, you know, because we're bored at night when it's snowing and so cold. So we made a little game. And actually I have this for sale now. It's this is one of the first prints of this. But it took some time and said, hey, we're bored. We want to learn Papa's feast, so let's make a little game out of it. This is something somebody else gave me. It's oils. She made a special concoction for me, something that she thought that I would like, and it smells so lovely. She said it was the Rebekah, what'd she call it? The Rebekah something, the Happy Rebekah or something. So, it's so nice. I mean, can you imagine, you know, making a special essential oil smell for Yeshua? That's something that you think he would love. Give that to him. Just a reminder for me. These are candles that I make. This year I hope to make a whole bunch more big ones. I normally make really nice big ones for all the feast days. But candles, you know, I make great candles. Really, I dip them really, really well, and they're nice and thick, and they last a very long time. Something that I do for Purim, and my girls and I we went to the secondhand store. We got some old fabric or pillowcases, tore them up, and make little sleeves here to put the Megillah in. And this one is actually sealed, so I'm not going to open it, but it's the story. So I typed it up in the computer, went to Staples, printed it out, rolled it up, and put it in our little bags. And I mean, how cool is that? Just to give away. This is a friend of ours who plays the cello, and he plays the cello beautifully. He came to our cabin one time and sat up in the loft and played down in, I think it was First Fruits that he came for. We were having a big old shindig, and he played his cello up in the loft. It was just beautiful, and he put his music onto CD. This is Isaac and I, our story of how he came alive through the Ransom Heart Ministry, and how what Yahweh did with him and his heart just totally transformed our marriage and his life, and it totally saved our marriage. And this is the story there. And then how from here we moved into the Hebrew understanding of oneness and what that means, and kind of the final chapter of Isaac and I. And so I put it into book form, and to say, you know, wow, Yeshua, look what the truth and you and Papa and the Ruach did. I want to document this. I wanted to have this in your hands. I would love to see it up on your bookshelf, because this is like sanctifying the name. This is like praising the name. It's like blessing the name, to say, wow, you did this for us, and thank you so much. I'm praising. This is my fall feast book. the Fall Feast book. This has everything that I have learned, everything that, there's memories in here, there's pictures, there's journal entries, there's all our traditions, there's prayers, there's recipes, there's teachings and things I want to remember about Yehovah's feast days for the fall. So this is something I want to give him. I've also got Shavuot one. I'm working on the spring one. I'll have Chanukah and Purim later. Another thing, look at that. This is something that I made for the girls for one of the feasts. So sometimes this one I did by hand. But a lot of times we'll go into the secondhand store, get something that looks like it has potential, and then we'll add to it. We'll change it a little bit so that it fits and so that it's like a costume. Special clothes for the feast that my own hands have made. Kingdom Sellers juice, something that Isaac and I found we needed, was something to invite people who had problems with alcohol, and just the kids. So when you go to a feast, when I think feast, I'm not thinking pop can or I'm thinking like feast. I'm thinking like pop the cork kind of thing. Well, not everybody can pop the cork on alcohol. So we started making juice and found Concord grapes that were pick Concord grapes, and we would juice them in a steamer and put them in a bottle and had this was when our very first label, but now we have a label. It's called Kingdom Sellers, and it was actually in 7 health food stores across the Idaho for a while. And on the back we had what the prayer you're supposed, about Yeshua saying, if you're thirsty, come to me and drink. And so it was pretty cool. So another idea would be, like this is my feast calendar. I can't wait. I'm going to show it to you a little bit more, but I have the feast calendar right here that I've done. So my point is that there are a lot of things that human beings can create. So when did we forget that we were all made as mini creators is what I want to know. I think we've all forgotten that because we're all kind of stuck in cubicles, we're stuck in cyberspace, and so we don't do a whole lot of creativity. We don't make a whole lot of things with our hands anymore because you can go to the store and buy candles. You can go to the store and buy your perfume. You don't have to make it. You can go to the store and buy all your clothes. You don't have to make it. So we've really, as a society, done a disservice to ourselves by getting so far away from the fact that we are creators. Now, I've looked at, I look at what I do on the computer in graphic design and all that as creativity. It's creativity because, but for me, it doesn't feel real until I actually print it or somehow get it out. So I'm sure that people who live in cyberspace and do stuff in here, photography and all that sort of stuff, very digital oriented, that there is, there's some process of growth, learning there how to get it out, but totally we can. So everyone has some kind of tangible gift. I totally believe that. Even though you may not know it, even though they might know it, they do. They really do. And so to say that we can't create something is really to forget who we are, and who we were created to be, whose image we were created in. We have a creator who made us, and we are mini creators. So to embrace that, I think is so important. But one thing, you may need is you may need some skill sets to actually find out what that talent is or what you are in love with. When my girls were little, I was watching them, dance around the house. They're 2-3 years old and they're tip-tip. Maggie's on her toes constantly, and I was like, she looks like a dancer or a gymnast. So we put her into ballet and dance really early because of what I wanted was her to have the skills, both my girls, but I wanted them to have the skills to be able to find out if they had dance as a gifting. And then if they do, the skill sets would help them learn and perfect that. And then if they do, I'm hoping, that when they were that old, I was hoping that they would learn the skill sets and then someday offer that back to the king, such as, come to a feast and dance for him. Choreograph something together with a group of people and offer that to the king. That's, so skill sets are very important. So I know that there's a lot of skill sets that I think we go in we hope, that our parents would recognize in us potential, and then help us get those skill sets that we need to, figure out who we are and what we were created with and stuff. And there's not always, you don't always have a good set of, a good set of parents or a home life to do that. But even as an adult, I think you can begin to look into that and see what skills do I need, what turns me on, what makes my heart come alive. So our gifts and talents, the same thing. Again, I know there are gifts that are supernatural, absolutely, and I'm in no way an expert on any of that, but those are not, again, what I'm talking about. I look at gifts and talents as abilities that you have that are unique to you, so that like no one does it like you kind of idea. So I remember I'm a graphic designer by trade and a photographer by trade, and I had a client one time, big fancy company here in town, one of the biggest construction companies here in town, and both Isaac and I worked for them. And I would walk into his office. I did all his photography for his big homes, fancy homes. We're talking, just millions of dollars worth of homes. And I did all their website development. I did all their kind of marketing and branding idea. Anyway, I would walk into his office and he would hand me something and he'd say, just go Rebekah-nize it. Just go Rebekah-nize it, because I had something that he saw as, something unique to me. And he couldn't script it out. He couldn't, write it out and describe it. It was just unique to me. So that's what I'm trying to get at. The heart of this is, what do you do that no one else does? It's unique to you. And then develop that and those skills in order to create something to bring to the King. And so it doesn't matter what title you give it, like gift or talent, and it doesn't matter how you got it, whether it was like just a gift or something that you developed. What matters is what you do with it. That's what I really want to drive home right now, is it matters what you do with it. So my suggestion is to not spend your time worrying about the differences between gifts and talents, because that can get pretty exhausting, I think, because I think they kind of blend in together. So then don't worry about what supernatural gift that you don't have, or you want to have, or you're not sure that you have, or you're hoping to have. So what I think you should be worried about, all of us should be worried about, is what you are doing with what you know you actually have. Okay, so what do you have, and then be worried about what you're doing with that. And so for those of you who have for those of you who have a non-tangible ability, so this is one of another question was like, well, what if it's a non-tangible ability? So my suggestion is, and my challenge is, turn it into a tangible gift. I want to encourage Israel to get out of their heads. I want you to get out of your heads, and I want you to put. I want Israel to begin to put your unique gifts into a form that can be shared with the King when he returns. That's the point. So you're going to take this intangible gift that you have, and you're going to put it into a form that you can hand him someday. And hand him is, let me just explore this just for a quick second. Let's talk about a musician for one. Okay, so a musician creates a piece of music for the feast. Okay, so record it. Put it on CD, just like my friend Andy did, Put that piece of music on CD. Or maybe you create it with the intention of performing it for the King. Totally cool. Maybe you write the music and you have it there and you're going to perform it for the King. A dancer choreographs the dance for the King to perform at the feast. Or, maybe she makes a video out of it and does it, gives it to him that way. Maybe it's it's a performance kind of thing. So I think we over-spiritualize stuff so much that I'm trying to get you to move this from your head to your heart. So I challenge you to get out of the Greek thought patterns that spiritualize everything and get your heart and your literal physical muscle memory developed. That's kind of what I'm talking about, your muscle memory development. So yeah, I don't know if I can say that any better. Get your muscle memory developed, there's muscle memory for me on how to make candles now, because I've done it over and over. First few times was no good, but I've done it over and over. But the goal was to make the candles for the King's feast days. That was the goal. That's kind of what I'm talking about. So we are to do the covenant. We're supposed to do the love, right? The achava. We're supposed to show up for the feast. That's action. We're supposed to eat at the feast. We're supposed to speak his name. We're supposed to help. I have a typo there. We're supposed to help a neighbor. We're supposed to help the poor, give to the poor. We're supposed to give to the orphans. We're supposed to rest on Shabbat. We're supposed to save the tithe. So there's our action words, right? We're supposed to do the covenant. So during Purim, we consider preparing, which is an action word, to meet the king. So the idea of preparing, preparing your gifts to meet the king. So you're going to bring something to the king. So let's try to do that without over-spiritualizing it. And then another question is, will those who've died already have things to give the king? So again, I think that's a question of the nature of the millennium. So this is what Isaac and I chatted about a little bit earlier. And I really, really, really wish, I wish we lived with more hope. I really do. More hope, more imagination, and more knowledge of his heart towards us, more settled knowledge to be okay, to be sure of how he loves you, So he can totally resurrect my stuff. Okay, if he can resurrect me, he can resurrect my little box of goodies that I want to bring the king, And one thing I want to challenge you about is, if the scriptures doesn't actually say one way or the other, like we believe about our animals, we believe our animals are going to be resurrected. They're part of the family. They have personalities. We love them so much. And when they die, it is incredibly heartbreaking. So, the scriptures isn't extremely clear about whether Yehovah is going to raise them or not. So it doesn't say that he will, but it doesn't say that he won't. So why do we always go towards the negative? Why do we always go to the thought he won't? Why not choose the other way and say, he's daddy. He's Papa, for heaven's sakes. Can you imagine the joy that he would get? To see on our faces our animals coming, running towards us in the end, when all is restored. What a beautiful restoration. And pure joy for him. Like he would get to have that joy run through his body to be able to do that for us. It's beautiful. And so that really paints a picture of his heart that I would like to challenge Israel to sit with, to really allow it to be true. Because his heart. His heart towards you is good. His heart towards you is love. Why would he not? Right? If I could do that for my girls, I would in a heartbeat. I would totally bring back, animals, things that they have loved that have been destroyed, in whatever, fires and whatever, So I live with a ton of hope. I also live with a really clear understanding of his heart towards me. And so I don't even think twice about, well, what about if the people in the past, they died and all their stuff is gone. I know that Papa can bring it back if he wants to. It is about what we do now and how it is connected to eternity. And so I'm trying to bring continuousness to our lives from now until then. So bottom line is, he is interested in how you spend your time. Okay, so when you spend your time creating things for him, that takes a lot of time. It takes your energy, and to do it for him is a sacrifice. But it's it's a lifestyle for me now. It's not a sacrifice per se, because what else do I have to do with my time? I really truly can't think of anything else that is more important than to walk this out with my family and begin to create things that not only do I get to pass down to my children and their children, the next generation, but things that I get to give the king someday. So it's kind of twofold there. And I think this is my closing slide on this. I just want to remind everyone that we were not created to study the Torah. Did you hear me? And please don't leave. We are not created to study, people. We were created to do. We were created to love. Okay, so we have to study now because we've been so blind for so long, and we've been told so many lies, and we've got this barrier between us and Yehovah, so we actually, have to do some study, but that's not the point. That's not what we're going to do for eternity, is study the Torah. Remember when Yeshua, I love the scene, and I think it's the film John, and he's in the temple or outside the temple, and he grabs the Torah scroll from the Pharisees, and he says, in here you think there is life, but I am life, and you're standing in front of you, and you're ignoring me. And so he's very clear about where life is, and so am I. So we read the Torah to know where life is, get on that path, and, at some point you have to stop reading and you have to do. So how are we going to do this? We have to do. And, man, being creative, that's what we're made as mini creators. So anyway, in closing thought on this, I believe we should spend our whole life seeking and perfecting what gifts or talents that he has given to us to give back to him. A spiritual gift or just a tactile, it doesn't matter. Just the talents and the gifts that you have been given, spend your whole life seeking a way to give it back to him, to seek how to perfect the skill and to become the best at it, and then give it back to him. Okay. All right, so my second thought today, and if there's some ladies that are new online here, I do a little bit of teaching and then I go into announcements and some fun stuff. So for now, my second little thought for today is, all right, should I prepare for Passover, Pesach now in the spring feast right now? Okay, so I know that you all want to, be prepared, but I'm going to challenge you and I'm going to say no. Do not start thinking about Passover yet. Don't study it yet. Don't walk into it yet. Stay in rhythm with the Creator. Okay, girls? It is very important to stay on topic with him. And I'm speaking to the Ezer Kenegdos of the home, because you, as an Ezer Kenegdo, you're going to be a guide. You're going to go before your family. You're going to go before your husband. And their attention is going to be drawn to where you are going. But if you're speeding ahead of Yehovah into the spring feast, he's not ready for you to go there yet. So stay with what's right in front of you. So it's not your rhythm, it's his rhythm. You are going to join him in his rhythm. I can't say this enough. So you want to stay on topic with Yehovah. So yes, the spring feast is going to come really fast. Next week is Purim. 2 weeks later, it's Rosh Hashanah, unless we call a 13th month, and it will be really wonderful. Then we'll have a whole full 13th month extra. But then you're going to hit the spring feast. 14 days after Rosh Hashanah, you're going to hit the spring feast. It's going to be one right after the other. It's going to fall really fast, like I talk about, like a waterfall. But if you try to save yourself by preparing too far in advance, you will miss out on walking with him during this next feast. Okay. So it's like looking over his shoulder. Like if you're talking to him and it's like looking over his shoulder at the next thing. I have had friends like this who you're in their presence and you're talking to them, and all they're doing is looking over your shoulders. They're chatting with you, but very, very distracted. Trying to do too much at once, looking over your shoulder, trying to see who else is coming. What's the next person that I'm going to have the conversation with? And it's so rude. It's rude, and it's so distracting. I can't. If you haven't had that happen, man, let me tell you, I don't like that at all. But. And I try really, really, really hard to watch how I am in the moment with somebody so that I don't do that, because it feels so awful. And I just feel like we do this with Papa. It's like here we are on the verge of Purim, and now we're looking over his shoulder at the spring feast. Don't do that yet. Don't do that yet. Just look at the next feast and then give your heart over to that, because you know what? The heart can handle only so much. Your heart has a saturation point. And if you've distracted it with stuff coming, like spring feast coming, it can't concentrate on Purim. This is why for me it's I get so full, and then and I'll talk about this in a little bit, when you come to that feast and the very next day it's like I blow it all out, and then I grab onto the next feast. Okay, so the idea is to stay on track, ladies, during this very, very crazy time ahead of you. Everyone will be trying to get you to plan ahead for the spring feast, for Pesach. But wait, you've got to be patient and wait, right? You got to raft, and you've got to raft the river that's right under you. Okay, so I talk about the feast as a river. It's a beautiful flow, and you're going to be on it. You're going to raft it. You're going to swim in it. But you can't swim in the river that's ahead of you. You've got to swim. You've got to swim or raft right where you are. Okay, so I challenge you to give your heart over to where you are in the rhythm at that moment. And then again, the day after the feast is the moment that you let it all drop from what you just went through and grab on to the next one. Okay. So let your heart attach to the next feast coming up. Just let it all go there and then attach to the next one. It's definitely a trick, especially when you have a ton of people, trying to get you to look ahead towards the next feast. But I'm going to challenge you to just wait. And I also just wanted to mention that it's better to receive one beautiful gem of truth, of knowledge, of something that moves your heart. One beautiful thing it's so much better to get just that one nugget of beauty and that aha moment in that feast than to have it all figured out. So you're going to be the Miriam or Mary. You're going to sit at Yeshua's feet and you're going to listen to him. You're not going to be the Martha that's running around, doing everything. So, I bet she was the best, multitasker. Tasker. I bet she multitasked wonderful. I bet she was just everywhere doing everything. She was probably upset at Mary because she needed help to do all the tasks in front of her. But you're not going to be like that. You're going to allow this one feast ahead of you to really impact you and to get that gem that he has for you. And you don't need all the gems at the same time. I've gone through this. Isaac and my family have been going through this for a very long time. So we have, they built on each other. All the feasts, all the Purims that we've gone through, each Purim, there's something brand new that Papa gives us, new jewel, new treasure. And so we hide that in our hearts. We write it down for the next year, but they kind of grow until you have a whole big treasure chest full. But I don't have that all at the same time. I didn't get that right at the beginning. Okay, so I'm pretty serious about this rhythm. It's like, one birthday at a time idea. I think for us in our family, no one's allowed to talk about only about the upcoming birthday. So my birthday's next, so Hadassah, Maggie can't say, oh, I want for my birthday, blah, blah, blah. I'm Mystic, I don't hear you, because we're talking about one birthday at a time. We're going to talk about mine next. And then it will be Hadassah's, and then it'll be Isaac's, and then it'll be Maggie's, and then I have for you a brand new segment. Yes, I do. This is for the kiddos. So you're going to be able to see Maggie and Hadassah discussing. I was asking them what they were going to do for the show, and if they would, and this is their discussion.
Make cookies for the show. I know, exactly, because it's sugar. We don't eat sugar. So, what are you girls going to do for the show? Well, I wanted to make blueberry muffins today, but that's not healthy. This has nothing to do with the show.
This has nothing to do with the show.
I know. So that's what we were arguing about. Mom, it's not about the show. It's not.
So what are you going to do for the show? Because you girls are going to get a segment in the show to do something fun for the teenagers and the kids that watch the Happy Hippy Hebrew Girl show. So you're going to do something every week, right? I'm going to video you doing something during the week. Like, we can make Shabbat huckleberry crisp with Hadassah, right? And Hadassah can show everyone how to do that, right? Does that sound fun? How about going to build a menorah snow thing?
All right, I won't make any sugar now. Good. Make a salad.
Killing me.
You told me yesterday that we don't need any more sugar.
Well, I know.
And then you let her make blueberry muffins. Why don't you make another kind of muffin, like carrot and apple and pineapple? Do you want me to air that? I don't know.
No.
Make sunrise
Mom,
muffins healthy.
please don't post this. Don't, please. I am the one that wants to make blueberry muffins, and now you said no.
But who's your mama?
You.
That's right. And what did I say?
I don't know.
Did I say yes or no? Did I tell you could do it?
You said, ooh, that sounds good.
That's right. So I say go make it. I'm your mom. I say go.
Why didn't you ever say that to me when I say, can I make cookies?
Oh, that is so not true. I do say that all
No,
the
you
time.
say, go make something healthy. We don't need any more sugar.
You're old. You're old enough
Maggie,
to know
you're
better.
not the mom. You're not in charge of the kitchen.
Cool. What was it you asked her to make?
Sunrise muffins.
Those are good.
Yeah, they are good. It only has like a fourth of a cup of sugar in it.
What are you doing?
Are you videoing my feet?
Hey, buddy. Come here, buddy. Hi, buddy. Hello, baby. You want to be on the show?
Monkey
All right, Hadassah, should we air that?
I think so, Mom.
This will be the segment. Hadassah and Maggie arguing.
I don't think so, Mom.
You know who you sound like?
What?
You sound like Al.
Oh, yeah, I do. Thanks.
Oh my god. Okay, well go make some blueberry muffins. Go on.
No, make a sunrise muffin. No.
She can't make sunrise muffins. She doesn't know how to make sunrise
I'll
muffins.
give her a recipe. No, Maggie. That has carrots and nuts in it, and I don't.
Leave the nuts out, but raisins in.
I don't like raisins.
Put apple in and pineapple.
Maggie, I can't eat apples anyway.
It's really good.
It is really good.
Sunrise muffin. Okay, maybe we'll show them how to make sunrise muffins next time.
But this time I'll make blueberry muffins.
Okay, go. Go. I'm hungry. Go. I want blueberry muffins.
They didn't post this. No.
All right, say goodbye. Say goodbye, mad girl.
Sunrise muffins, yes. They're awesome. Sunrise muffins. They have like sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, carrots, pineapple, raisins, honey, stuff like that. It's really good. Okay, subscribe to our e-newsletter if you're new here. I say this every time, but subscribe to our e-newsletter. Just go to our website and you will see a little place to subscribe. Plus, go to our YouTube channel, Teshuva Ministries, and go ahead and be a subscriber there. And I post things there that I don't, I've been so overwhelmed I haven't been able to post it anywhere else. So sometimes I have videos of Israel there that we've been on, and all the teaching videos and stuff are up there. Share this Facebook group with your girlfriends and let them know about this group. If you like it, perhaps they will like it. And add them, or ask them, add them. And I think if you add them, they can reject it. So I wouldn't stress too much about that. If you know of somebody that you think would like it, go ahead and add them. And it fluctuates. We go up and down. People come on and they go, no, it's not for me. That's totally fine. But other people are so happy that they were added. Also, I have a map at home that sits up on above my desk or near my desk, and it has a flag for each one of the ladies that I know of at this point who have responded to my call to get on the map. So if you would like to be on my map, it's growing, and it's pretty cool to see where everyone lives. So when we come to the convention in the summer, I plan to bring the map and put it up so you can all see where everyone is. But if you want to be on this map, just tell me where you are. So a city and a state, please, with your name in the feed. Also, here is my calendar. I don't intend to sell things on Shabbat, but I want to make you aware of some things so that after the Shabbat, you can go to my store. Of course, at some point, perhaps I will do a separate show for the store to show you different items, but this just came out, and you're going to love this. This is a feast calendar that has some teachings in it, some encouragement, that sort of thing. And then you've got the months, and you've got some beautiful photographs that I have taken with, it's a very interactive calendar. So I think you're going to like that. Definitely hang that on your wall. And I've been meaning to do that for a long time. And I finally got it done. You guys inspired me. I did it for you. So I hope that you get it, use it, get a whole bunch, pass them out to your friends and family. All right. So I have a show and tell for you. Show and tell. So this is my show and tell, and this is something that Maggie fell in love with in Israel. I don't even know what you call it. What do you call this, Maggie? But this is something we bought, Maggie bought in Israel at the Jaffa Gate when we were there last Sukkot. This actually, we saw it, she saw it, and I thought Purim right away. She loves tea, she loves things that are dainty like this. So it was quite a big thing that happened there at the Jaffa Gate, getting this and bringing it home and stuff. So one thing I guess I just wanted to say is that we got it from in an Arab store, basically run by Arabs. And when we left this whole encounter with purchasing this and a few other things, we were very shaken up. We do not know how to shop. As Westerners, shopping over there is completely different. Over here, you can go into a store and you can actually pick up an item and look at it and then put it down and then walk away. Or you can pick up the next one and look at it, kind of thing. Over there, we learned really pretty hard, a hard lesson to learn, that you do not pick up something and look at it unless you're prepared to either deal with the merchant, who is going to be on you right away, or you're ready to just buy it. So something that was really, it was a really hard experience to go through. But what I did learn was that I left there not wanting to ever trust an Arab again. And I know that sounds pretty stereotyping and stuff, but one interesting thing that I discovered was that the word Arab is in Strong's, it's number 693, and actually means to ambush. It actually means to lie in wait. And Hasatan, back at the garden, in the Genesis text, it talks about how Hasatan, the one who lay in wait for you, he's talking, Hava is talking to Yehovah there, and he is telling Hava that the one who lies in wait for you, the Arab who laid in wait for you. So I was pretty shocked to find out what Arab actually meant after I returned from Israel, and it totally matched my experience over there with any kind of transactions with an Arab was definitely felt like somebody was lying in wait for you to pounce, to ambush, to force you to get something that you didn't necessarily want, and to do anything to make you get it, to lie about all kinds of things, to flatter you, to all that. It's really, I know Maggie said, don't tell the story again, I'm tired of hearing it, but it's kind of funny because in the end it'll be a really funny story because the merchant ended up trying to grab the card out of my hand, so like in your face, so comfortable with getting into your space that literally I had the credit card up by my face and literally trying to grab it out of my hands a couple times. And then when he did finally get it, as in I gave it to him, he put it in his pocket and he walked out of the store and to go to his neighbor, his brother's store to run it as a transaction. And I looked at Isaac, and he looked at me, and I said, Isaac, go with him. He had the card in his pocket. Oh, and then he ended up overcharging us, and it was just kind of a nightmare. So anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. Anyway, that was my show and tell for today. Okay, so one quick segment here before we get into Purim. This is something that I wanted to share with you because I was waiting to share it until I knew for sure. But I am fully in love with this tea. I have got to tell you, if you don't know about Esiac tea, you got to learn about it. You got to study it. I was just, I don't know how it happened, but somehow I ended up looking at this lady's life. Her name is Renee Casey, and I was just captured by her story. Basically, she was a nurse at the turn of the century in Canada. And by the 30s, 1930s, she was given a big hotel in Bracebridge, I think it was Bracebridge, Canada, given a hotel to where she basically was curing people with cancer, and with this tea. And this tea was basically given to her by somebody who'd gotten the recipe from an Indian in the Dakotas back mid-1800s, something like that, or turn of the century. And this tea is, the story of Renee Casey is crazy, and I've been just fascinated with it. You know, how she was given freely this recipe, how she held on to it, afraid to let the recipe out because she was afraid of what the government was going to do with it. Government powers that be were going to make things, you know, illegal, this sort of thing. And she wanted to cure people. She never charged for this tea. She made it at night, but she kept this tea, this secret, for her whole life. And it's just an incredible story. But she was curing thousands of people in the 30s. She was threatened by, the government was going to put her in jail for it. She was threatened several times by the government for practicing medicine without a license idea. But anyway, there was a lady Mary McPherson, who worked with her making the tea in the 30s, who signed an affidavit and actually gave the formula, at least the formula that she was making at the time, to the city of Braceburg, Canada. And so we actually have the recipe. It's a little trick to figure out which company to buy the tea from, but here's what I think. You know, Papa says that we are supposed to love each other, and Yeshua said that we would be known by our love. We would be healing each other, raising people from the dead, this sort of thing. Well, the healing each other thing, you know, it's one thing to pray for someone. You know, what does the scriptures talk about in the New Testament? Talks about, you know, anointing somebody with oils and praying over them. You know, I come to find out that's actually like essential oils. You know, and essential oils can totally reverse things. It can make you, it can heal you, but teas can too. And so to share this knowledge, I think, is so important. So I just want to show you what has happened to my family by using this tea for the last, how long we've been doing this, Isaac and Maggie. I think we've been on this tea for Hadassah a month and a half. So on this slide I have where I get the tea that is got all the ingredients that you need and the appropriate amount of ingredients, plus this plus the sheep sorrel roots, which is extremely important. So if you get, you can't get this in the health food store, okay? So don't buy it in the health food store. Be really careful where you're getting it online. You've got to get the best quality for it to do anything. And so that the ReneeCaseyT.com, Blue Moon Herbs, is where I get it from. Basically, Isaac has had an ulcer for years, and it has really taken him out to the point where he hasn't been able to eat, can't sleep, incredibly miserable, blood, this sort of thing. Anyway, I'm sure you're happy that I'm sharing this too, Isaac, right? Anyway, it's gone. The ulcer is gone, and he's under more stress now than he has been. So the ulcer is gone. For me, this last week, in the evening, he adjusted me, felt my glands in the back of my neck, said, you're going to be getting a fever tonight, and you're basically going to be getting sick. Your body's fighting something, I can tell. Next day, I get sick. Who knew? You know, I didn't feel good. And that night I've been double dosing. You kind of change how you do your doses so that your body doesn't get used to it. And so we were doing 2 doses a day. Took my dose that night on an empty stomach, went to bed. Next day, I'm totally fine. Like, I was going down. Like, I could feel myself going down to I knew I was going to get sick. I was getting sick. I was feeling shivery, cold, getting a fever, this sort of thing. And by the next day, I was totally fine. The tea, I mean, this tea is amazing. Kata, we have a doggy. It's not the black one you saw in the video a little bit earlier, but a gold one. And she, for 2 weeks, was so not doing good. I mean, she was not looking good at all. Lethargic, not grumpy. She's very grumpy, but she wasn't being grumpy. Blood, in her stools, this sort of thing. Just foaming, not foaming, but like licking weird stuff and just throwing up everywhere. It's just bad, okay? It was just yucky. Sorry, but I just have to describe. So, I know, Maggie, right? So, I decided that I was going to try this tea on her. So she wouldn't eat, so I couldn't get her to take it natural, just, like drink it down. So I put it in a syringe and started shoving it down her throat, right? I'm not afraid. So I'm shoving it down her throat. I get a full dose down her throat, and within hours, she is back to normal. I am not joking. I kept her on the tea, 1 dose a day for probably 4 days, 5 days. She was totally fine. After 2 weeks of being incredibly sick, there's no other reason for her to be well except this tea. Well, I kept her on for 4 or 5 days, and then I decided to take her off of it. As soon as I took her off of it, within a couple days, she was back going sick again. So I had to do the same thing because she wouldn't drink. So I had shoved it down her, and now I'm keeping her on it. And then Maggie, we're using poultices from the tea. So you brew the tea and then use the tea remnants and you put it as a poultice and she's putting it on her face, and it's taking down the inflammation for the acne that she's having trouble with. So I just wanted to, before we get into the teaching today, this is another segment I've been meaning to do, but I wanted to make sure that I could really say for real from personal experience that this stuff rocks, and it rocks. It totally rocks. This, get it from Renee KCT. So Esiak is her last name spelled backwards. An amazing story. Get the book, Guardian, what's it called? Not Guardian Angel, but The Calling of an Angel, I think, is the book about her life. Pretty cool. So hopefully that will heal whatever issues your family deals with. Go get it. All right, yay, I have some time today. Get to the teaching part, I've got time. You read the story there of Renee Casey and the kinds of cancers that it cured. It didn't cure just cancer, so it cured ulcers and different things like that. But yes, lupus is a form of cancer, and I believe with all my heart that Papa told me to tell you to get on it. Hopefully I'm gonna do a little video and show you how to make it, but it's easy, it's so easy, it's super easy. It just blows my mind how easy it is. You just have to have the right combo of the herbs to help your body do what your body was created to do. Your body heals itself. You haven't made your body that way, but you just need some help sometimes. So, yay. Okay. So we're going to talk about Purim today for a little bit. This is an incredible feast. I like my little, I'm going to bring this close. I think it's so Persian-y, so pretty. So this is the only feast, a set-aside or festival, where Papa wants to talk to us about how to prepare to meet the King. Both Hanukkah and Purim, and the true Hanukkah and the true Purim, how they are both about, they're very, very personal. Hanukkah is about cleansing the heart from idolatry. Purim is about how to dress to meet the King. What is it that he likes and wanting to please him. So this is the only feast, only festival throughout the entire year that deals with this subject. Hanukkah is the only festival in the entire year on Yahweh's calendar that deals with idolatry, like it specifically. That he wants to talk about what is in your heart, what idols have you set up in your heart, who do you worship. That's a Hanukkah subject. The Purim subject is very personal too, because it's about what dress you're wearing, how to prepare to meet the King. So we are going to chat for a little bit about that, about the story, but let's just go into my slides here. So Purim is a corporate national celebration. All right, it's the story of how Yehovah destroyed the enemies of his people through Queen Esther, laying down her life for her people. So one thing that I am going to encourage you to do is to go watch Jim Staley's 2014 talk on Purim. It will blow your socks off. He is amazing. He understands he's seen the depths of Purim and the prophetic implications and how it is very connected to Passover, and how it gets really, really personal. I saw that, was very moved, and I see a few other things here that I'm going to share with you. But Queen Esther lays down her life for her people in a state of death. Fasting is a state of death, because if you don't eat, you die. So she fasted and prayed for 3 days and 3 nights. Very prophetic, as Yeshua later would be in the grave 3 days and 3 nights, laying down his life for his people, for Israel. So because this is about something that Jehovah did for the nation, he did it for the Judah, for our brother Judah. Judah is part of the family. We are all family. This is totally appropriate national celebration. This is Israel practicing, remembering how Jehovah has come through for his people in the past. So if you remember in the scriptures, Jehovah constantly says, remember, 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 because we're constantly forgetting, right? Forget. We're totally forgetful. And so he's like, you must remember, you must tell your children about how I have come through, because there's going to be a time when I'm not going to be able to come through for you. Either I'm choosing not to, or I can't at this point. Whatever it be, there's going to be a time when you need to remember what I did do, so that you don't lose faith in me, so you don't lose heart. Okay, so this Purim is very, very much about remembering what Jehovah has done in the past. Purim is also a personal preparing. So how is it personal? Well, I'm going to go ahead and read what I wrote here in the story. All the virgins who were to be presented before the king were placed under the care of Haggai, the king's eunuch. He was in charge of the women. Beauty treatments were given to them, and the woman who pleased the king, she became queen. All right, Haggai is a type of Ruach HaKodesh. So we come under the Ruach HaKodesh's care to get ready to meet the king. And remember, this is the connection between this and Shavuot. Oh my, because remember, the gift of Shavuot is that we get the indwelling of the Ruach, who moves us to walk in step with Yehovah, to obey the covenant, right? But we need the helper. We need the indwelling of the Ruach to help show us, how to do this. And the Ruach, the indwelling of the Ruach, is going to help us know how to prepare to come before the king. Haggai intimately knew the king, King Ahasuerus, and what would please him. Thus, the Ruach intimately knows Yehovah and what pleases him. So see the parallels there between Haggai and the Ruach HaKodesh. So we must be like Queen Esther and want to do only what will please the king. But we need a guide. We need a guide to help us prepare, and that is the Ruach HaKodesh, just like Haggai helped Esther prepare to meet the king. Purim calls us to wake up for such a time as this, to be the one for such a time as this. Whether it's in a huge story, whether there's a huge calling on your life like Queen Esther's to save lots of people's lives, or whether it's in your own personal life. So the idea of that for such a time as this, every choice you make, is very crucial with who you're aligning yourself with. So the days between Purim and Passover are days of great testing. This is what Carrie Ferrari says at Doorkeeper Ministries. She says, we will be tried in many ways so that the motives of our hearts will be revealed. We need to be encouraged and know that, like Queen Esther, the Father has us here for such a time as this. This is crazy. We're in the end of the age. Things are just escalating, going so fast. I think time feels like it's going so fast. I mean, it feels like I was just here. As soon as the show was over last week, I got home, went to bed. The next morning I got up and I started, going through the feed, answering people, getting everything prepared to getting the PDF prepared to get out to you. I spent the whole day, kind of cleaning up from the show. And then it was Monday. And then it was Tuesday. And it just came so fast. It just feels like time is going really fast. And I know this is a Titanic and we're going down. The planet is going down like the Titanic. And for such a time as this, perhaps you are here to, help people get on the lifeboats. Get yourself on the lifeboats. Get your family on the lifeboats for such a time as this. Okay, so 7 reasons why you should celebrate Purim. All right. For one, it is in the scriptures, people. It's in the scriptures. We can't throw the scriptures out. We can't pick and choose here. This is the scriptures. And for what? It's not a pagan festival. It is a festival for Israel. It is Israel's festival, okay? It is not commanded in the Torah, of course not. It's not one of the 7, but it is not just a minor holiday. This is a huge, major holiday, in my opinion, because of the subject matter that it actually begins to unpack. So it's in the book of Esther in our scriptures. It's also the rest of the story is in the book of the Apocrypha called the rest of the book of Esther. And in that book, you actually see the prayers of Queen Esther. You see the prayers of Mordecai. You see the prayers of the king. And Yahweh's name is all over it. Beautiful continuation of the story to understand exactly how the story went down when you have both of those together. So number 2, it happened to family. Again, like I said, it happened to our brother Judah, but we are all family. We're all one nation, right? And so to celebrate how Yahweh came through for Judah, it's like he comes through for us. It's like the same thing. We're like celebrating it because of what he did, what Yahweh did for our family. Number 3, it was actually a command for the scattered, which is interesting. When you read the story in the Apocrypha, towards the end, you'll see King Ahasuerus actually make this a commanded festival for all of his provinces to show up at. So not only do you have this just being something that Queen Esther and Mordecai wanted Israel, Judah, to remember annually, but the king actually said, I want all 127 provinces to remember what Yahweh has done for his people. And in those 127 provinces, you actually have the scattered Israel. You have Israel in the 10 northern tribes are scattered among the nations. And that was the then known world at that point. He pretty much had conquered the then known world. So scattered Israel would have been in those 127 provinces. Interesting to note that also Purim was that the king commanded that it would be the Arabs. It would be everyone was supposed to mark this day. And the reason why, and the king actually says the reason why, is so that, not so you can dress up in Halloween costumes and run around mimicking Halloween, but so that you would remember, his people, his provinces would remember that Yahweh came through for his people. So number 4, it has prophetic implications. The parallels between Purim and Passover are stunning, and other things are completely stunning. I mean, just for an example, and if you go ahead and watch Jim Staley's 2014 video on teaching on Purim, you will see some of these. You have Vashti, who represents the rebellious bride, the first bride, who would, she did not want to allow the king to show her off to the nations. So, it's something that I believed a long time ago was that the king had actually asked her to show up naked with just her crown on, but that is not actually, that's not actually what happened. As far as I understand, it was him wanting to show off how he had adorned her. So she would have had a full, huge, heavy dress with tons of tons of gems on it and stuff, and her incredible crown. So the idea was he wanted the nations to see, he wanted to show the nations and say, this is how I adorn my queen. This is my splendor. This is like, this is how I, lavish on my queen. I'm such a lavisher of good things. I want you to see how what I do for my queen. Another parallel would be Esther represents the obedient bride. So she's like the second bride who allowed the king to show her off to the nations. So she actually wanted to know, what is it that you want? And I will do it. Haggai represents the Ruach HaKodesh, as we talked earlier. Haman represents Hasatan in the story, who is going to hold Yehovah to a legal thing, in the sense of, once the decree of death was made, it couldn't be revoked, and Hasatan is going to hold Yehovah to a legal document, basically, that says no, they don't have the right to go in because of this. Some other things I talk about, in the stuff that I've written on this, and I'll probably talk about it next week, but that basically they were under the threat of death, or that death decree was hanging over their head just because of who they were. Just because it wasn't because of what they had done, each individual person, it was because of who they were, their nationality. And we as sinners, humans, have sinned, and so just because of who we are, because we have broken the law and we are humans, we deserve to die. So that death decree hangs over our head. But there's the decree of death, but there's also the decree of life, which I think is just stunning to look at the parallels here between the stories of, Queen Esther and our story, is like the decree of life. So you have this decree of death hanging there that says you are condemned to die, but then Mordecai and Queen Esther actually get to craft a new decree, because the king couldn't get rid of this decree of death, remember? But they get to craft a new decree, and right next to this death decree is a decree of life. So they could choose life. I mean, just stunning. You just get into the story and you find the parallels, and it's completely stunning. One other thing here, a parallel, is that those closest to the king knew the king's law. So knowing the king's law and being able to interpret it was going to get you closest to the king. Okay, what does Yeshua said, like Jim Staley mentioned? Yeshua says that, those that teach and practice the ways of Yehovah are going to be called great in the kingdom of heaven, but those that break even the littlest of these commandments are going to be called least in the kingdom. So if you want to be great in the kingdom, you must know his law. You must know and be able to interpret the king's law. So the king asked his advisors, what is, I know there's this law. What does it mean? And they could interpret it for him. Number 5, it holds the topic that Yehovah wants to talk to us about at this time of year. So how do we prepare to come before the king? To remember that Yehovah will destroy enemies for us. So there's 2 things that I see that Yehovah really wants to talk about during this time of year as we prepare to go into Rosh Hashanah and the spring feast. He wants to talk to us about how to prepare to come before the king. He wants us to remember that he has destroyed our enemies and that he will destroy them in the future for good. Number 6, the true Purim, not the mimic of Halloween, not the false Purim, not the one that everybody's like not wanting to celebrate Purim because it mimics Halloween. I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about restoring the true Purim. So the true Purim is provision for us. It's something we can offer our children, in the middle of this time, in the stark time of year still, in the middle of winter. You can offer this to them and begin to walk them into learning about the heart and how to prepare to meet the king. Number 7, Queen Esther shows us how to walk as these are kenegdos and throw a banquet in the face of danger. This is like what we talked about last week. I think this is incredible. That this is, for me, the heart of this story, at least where it gets most personal for me, is watching an example of a Ezer Kenegdo throwing a banquet with the death sentence over her head and just putting everything out there on the line. She doesn't hide her beauty, she brings it forward into this moment of life or death. And so every year we get to practice this. Every year we get to practice, being humble, fasting and praying, and repenting for ourselves and for Israel, and considering, the provision of Yahweh and how He has come through for His people, and going into it with surety and faith. But how do you do that in the middle of hard? How do you throw a banquet in the middle of hard? So she's got all this and honor, and she's pulling out the stops to throw a big feast. And frankly, that's what we're doing, ladies. Families, all year long, you have all these feasts, all these festivals. You have these annual high Shabbats, you have a weekly Shabbat, you have new moons, you have the 2 winter festivals, and you're going to throw your heart into celebrating these festivals all year long. This is the rhythm that I keep talking about, and this is the job of a priest, is to walk this out, to do the rhythm, to invite people into this feast, to come in, and during Purim you invite them to come in to feast, but you invite them into learning how to prepare their heart to meet the King. And I really think that as the world kind of like crashes around us and the end of the age shows up, it is showing up, it is here, as the telos comes on us at some point when Papa is ready for that. I think the thing that's going to set us apart is going to be the fact that we'll be feasting in the middle of the chaos. I mean, this calm, beautiful, centering, moment of the feast where we sacrifice to our Elohim, we focus on Him, and we focus on what He wants to talk about at that moment. I mean, while this chaos is going around all around us, we're throwing feasts, we're throwing huge banquets in the middle of chaos, in the middle of the world going down and everybody freaking out and having, a ton of stress, a ton of fear, and we're going to be like focused and solid because we're following Him in this rhythm. And so I think we'll be feasting and finding our joy in the midst of, the pagans running around with their heads cut off, kind of like a chicken, a chicken with their head cut off kind of thing. And we don't have to be like that because we have Yehovah, we have this job to do for Him, and we're going to throw feasts. And I think with Purim, it's like I love it because I just look at Queen Esther's example, and I do like she did. His people will be throwing Him feasts as the end of the ages, no matter what. All right, so what point does one make by not celebrating? Why not celebrate? I just got to address this really quickly because I know that there are Melchizedek teachers out there that teach against it, and so I want to just raise my voice to teach for it. I'm Melchizedek focused-minded, and I'm a Melchizedek priest, and I want to invite and encourage Israel to not throw these out, not throw Purim out, because it is so deep. It is so amazing, the true Purim. And we can not resurrect it, but restore it, So by not celebrating it, we kind of say, well, we're not really one nation. Yes, we are, and this is family. By not celebrating, you kind of allude to being a minimalist. So, if you can see that it's not pagan and that you're supposed to be doing it because it's actually in the scriptures, then the idea that I want to challenge you to be is an extravagant lover of the King. Okay, so you're going to be extravagant worshiper. You're not just going to say, what are the 7? I'll show up for those and nothing more. Well, I know we don't want to embrace things that are not of Him. Of course not. But when it's in the scriptures, it's literally in the scriptures. Let's look at this. Be an extravagant lover of Him, as in you want anything, you want as much as you can. You don't want to just say, well, just give me the short list and I'll do that. Just one other question for you. There's a lot of people who are very, very adamant against it, but I want to ask them, do you celebrate Thanksgiving? What holidays that the nation of, like America, has decided federally that you must be celebrating, or that you must at least make a nod to, that you do. And yet you wouldn't actually make a nod to Purim, which is actually in the scriptures, which is for a feast for Israel, which you are more part of Israel. Your nation, your national, you're part of the nation of Israel more than you are a part of America. or whatever country you're in, kind of thing, because that's the more true, that's the more real. That's so. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I hope so. This is pretty crucial. I know I see this with Hanukkah and Purim. Hanukkah and Purim prepare the heart for the spring feasts, ladies. Hanukkah is all about the cleansing of the temple, our hearts, so that the Ruach can live there, because the Ruach can't live there if you've got idolatry going on, right? That's the topic of Hanukkah. So Hanukkah and Purim prepare the heart. So you have to get the idolatry out, all right? And then Purim is all about considering how the Ruach, represented, remember, by Haggai, indwells in us and then prepares us, the bride, Israel, to meet the King, Yeshua. So we are to inquire of the Ruach as to what pleases the King, and then we allow her to teach us what those things are by looking at the royal law and how Yeshua interpreted it. So we're going to look at the royal law. We're going to read it. We're going to know it. We're going to look at Yeshua and say, how did you interpret it? What do you want me to, how do you want me to look at this? And then we're going to, with the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh, live it out. Oh, I think it's beautiful. So it's like, Hanukkah is about getting the idolatry out of your heart. Purim is about, okay, the idolatry is gone. Now I want the indwelling of the Ruach is here. So now who the helper that lives in us, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to dress so that I can come before the King? So with these two festivals, our hearts are more ready to receive the spring feast and the and the week of unleavened bread where we eat of Yeshua, without considering what is in our hearts at Hanukkah, without considering what pleases the King at Purim. You're not ready for the spring feast, my friend. This is why I think these are major feasts. These are not minor, because you can go ahead and stomp through all the festivals without your heart, and it means nothing. You have to have your heart, and you have to have your heart cleansed from idolatry. You have to have the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh. You have to ask the Ruach what pleases the King, and then you have to wear the garment that's going to get you into the great wedding feast. You wear the garment and learn what the splendor of Yehovah is, how he wants to adorn your dress. You got to get the white dress, and then how is he, what does adornment look like? What is he? It's your gifts, it's your callings, it's your talents. It's like what he wants to show off to the nations, on reflected in you. What he's given you, you're going to put on your dress and let him show you off. Does that make any sense? I think it's beautiful, and definitely go watch Jim's talk on that. So there's so much to say about the levels and depths of Purim, and next week during the show I'm going to do a little teaching on it, the teaching that I normally do during our Purim celebration. I'm going to kind of, like I said, split those two in half. We're going to do the banquet and the Purim spiel on Sunday with a big group of people, but I'm not going to do the teaching then because it's such a short amount of time for the party. So I'm going to do the teaching part of what I normally do during that party. I'm going to do the teaching part next Shabbat on the ladies' show. It's going to look different, so I hope that you join me. I feel like I have to fight for Purim and Hanukkah because of the people teaching against it. I feel like I have to fight for it because they're so beautiful. I mean, I see with such clarity how beautiful these two festivals are and how they prepare your heart to receive all the things that Papa wants to give us in the spring feast and Shavuot and then the fall feast. So I love them so much. I feel like I have to fight for them every time I open my mouth about it. So I'm real sorry if I hound into that a little bit, but nevertheless, I hope that you can see the beauty of it alongside of me. All right, some Purim celebration ideas. So get your piece of paper and a pen and write down some Purim ideas here with me. I'm sure you have, if you've been doing this, you probably have a lot of ideas yourself. You'll also get this Prezi, like I said, so you can go back here. But do a fast. This is one way to enter Purim, is to do a fast with Queen Esther. And do it while you're actually preparing the feast. So do it for 3 days and 3 nights prior to. See, I can see myself on there, so I see my hair's a mess. Sorry. The tangents that Rebekah goes on, right? At least you all love me. All right, so yeah, prepare the feast while you're fasting, and then enter into Purim with Queen Esther. And tell you, the Ruach will show up, and just lots of ahas, lots of, welcome to my world. You're going to get so blessed by doing that. It's going to be hard, but you're going to be blessed. Make a banquet hall. This is something that we do for Purim. We make a beautiful banquet hall to feast in for Purim, and then kind of just linger in for a few days after Purim. You fill your heart with teachings on it. Okay, so Jim Staley, like I said, has a great one, great teaching on it. Read the story in the scriptures, like I said before. Read it, read it together. Read it out loud. Have your kids read part of it, banter back and forth. Sometimes we break it into 2 sections and read one part here, one part there. Sometimes we don't need to read it anymore because we've read it so many times. But read the rest of it in the Apocrypha. So actually buy the Apocrypha, the King James Version Apocrypha, and get that. Watch and read it. Watch some movies about it. It's so fun. There's One Night with the King. Love the sets. Love the costumes on this one. Super beautiful there. Story's it's got a little bit of a weird twist to it. A little bit of drama that didn't need to be there, I don't think. But I love this, and it's such cool. So we watch one of these a year, and we switch years so that they don't get too old, and hopefully there'll be some more that come perhaps, but we do love these. So this one by far this is the Bible, Esther. This one by far follows the story really well, straight out of the scriptures, but also it actually adds some parts that we see in the Apocrypha, which is really cool. This is just a little cartoony one for the kids when they were little. And this is a book I read. I love this Hadassah book by Tommy Tenney. Really cool book. So read about it. Also make a Persian feast, like perhaps what Queen Esther did. And get creative with the food. Try new food. That's one thing I love about the feast is when you create the feast environment and you invite your family into the eating the feast, you can get creative and enjoy different cuisines. You know, so this isn't about macaroni and cheese or potato salad and chips and stuff. No, you want to do something extra special. You want to give tastes that are just special to that feast or that festival, so that when your family has that again, they think about that feast. So you're making memories with smells and tastes, all right, and sounds. So try new food. We do Persian food, rose water, lots of orange blossom water. All right, so dress up Persian. The idea of hidden identity. I'm not advocating Halloween or anything like that, but like Hadassah loves Hadassah was named after Queen Esther. So I have 2 favorite ladies in the scriptures. One is Hadassah, Queen Esther, and the other is Mary Magdalene. And so Maggie is named after Mary Magdalene. Her name is Magdalene, and Hadassah is named after Queen Esther. And Hadassah, is incredibly brave. I think what you name your children is so important, because I think that they really live up to that name. Hadassah here, when we were at the teepee, she could walk all the way down to the fridge, remember, in the dark, on a little trail with a little flashlight. She didn't care. She's brave. She would walk down there in the woods. What was it, a quarter-mile round trip? She did, just brave little girl. So dress up somehow. Dress up Persian. Sometimes we had other themes. We did, sometimes we didn't have money to do Persian, and I didn't have the creativity of the time, so we did what we had. So just make it fun. And then invite lots of guests, of course, which invite. And then you can make or buy a Megillah. I have a Megillah for sale. It's huge. It's very long. It tells the whole story. It tells how Purim gets personal. But buy or make a Megillah. One thing we did one year, we had a hamantash cookie
contest.
Thank you. Contest. That was fun, huh?
Yeah.
So we had some guys who had little pieces of paper, and they judged the hamantash. We had, the ladies had made the hamantash cookies, and so the guys judged the contest, and it was very fun. It had a prize for the cookie that won.
And we also act out the story.
There you go. Thank you for helping me. My little, see, Steve. Yep. What do we call this? The Purim spiel.
Yeah.
We call it the Purim spiel. So you act out the story. So fun, super fun, especially if you do improv and people don't quite know what's going. And they can get so creative. And the louder the better, the funnier the better. It's a blast. We actually give prizes for the best actress who got the best laughs out of the crowd. We give a prize for the best costume as well. All right, print out coloring books for the kiddos. Another idea, shop. I bet you that some of you have the gift of shopping. Yeah, I bet you have the gift of shopping. And somehow, I wonder how you can make that into something that you can bring the king. I don't know, but shop for Purim. I'm going to have lots of more items up on RebekahCo.com, but I'm sure there's other places out there as well. But no, come to my store, and I'm going to have plenty of things up there for you in the future. Make noisemakers to drown out Haman's name during the play. So when you're doing the Purim spiel and his name comes up, everybody has fun drowning out Haman's name. Because remember how Yehovah said, so Haman is he is a descendant of Amalek. And remember how Yehovah said that he was going to wipe out the name of Amalek from, never to be known again, never to be said again, never to be remembered again. And so that's kind of the idea. You're going to drown out the name of Haman, who is a descendant of them. Descendant of Esau. All right, talk about the topics found in Purim. Lots of things to talk about. So when you'll see next week when I present the teaching part of our Purim party, how I do it. You might get some ideas from that. But talk about. That's why I write things. That's why we. I give little booklets out to all my guests to kind of have them go home and have something to read about Purim. And those you could get on my store as well. So you don't have to make everything. If somebody's already made it, why remake the wheel, right? We also love, Maggie loves, and Hadassah loves to, what do you like to do?
We like to sleep and wake up in banquet hall.
Yeah. So they bring their beds out into the banquet hall, or when they roll out of bed, they'll see the banquet hall that we've made, if we've made it in our home, and just love to kind of linger in that atmosphere for a few days and have breakfast and lunch and dinner in there and study in there and do stuff. So that's something that we do. Remember as a kid during Christmas time, you'd lay under the tree and you'd watch the Holy, and you'd go to sleep. Then you had this tree thing, this god, this idol sitting in your house, and you would go, enjoy it at night, kind of thing. Well, that is. It's an idol for one thing, and it's Christmas, so we don't do that anymore. But the idea of letting your heart linger, this is how you celebrate. Amber, you want to know how to do this. What do you give your family in their memories, and what kind of traditions are you going to establish for them? So here's an idea. Build a banquet hall, make a beautiful banquet hall in your house, in your living room, change it, totally change the environment. And your family is going to love to hang out in that environment for a while, and that will imprint on their minds and their hearts, this festival. That's the idea. And you want them to come back to it. You want them to remember this when they're older, to say, hey, do you remember this time of year? Oh yeah, we should be building this it's just like, we know how, like Amber was saying, we all know how to do Christmas because it's been passed down for so long. So we set up a tree, we have a big meal, we have presents you wrap them, put them under the tree, this sort of thing. You put lights up.
Pagan.
Yes, it is. So we don't do that.
No, we don't.
No.
Well, we used to do it at Adorn house, but
Yeah.
But Michael Rood came to our porch and said, "Hey, watch this." So.
I love you. Yes. And another thing at Purim you could do is literally practice coming before the king. This is something that we actually did a couple years ago. We built a Purim corridor. You're so funny, Hadassah. We actually built a huge, and I've got a picture to show you in a minute. We built a huge Purim corridor and practiced coming before the king, because I mean, this is the most important event in your entire life, is coming before the king, right? It's just going to be you. You're going to show up right there in the courtroom. It's going to be you and Yehovah, and it's only going to be you and Yehovah. No one else is going to be standing there with you. And I mean, we practice piano for a concert. We practice all this stuff, but why not practice that? I mean, literally, like in a very physical way, coming before the king, like walking. What would it feel like to walk down the corridor to the throne room, knowing that you're going to meet your king, your creator, and you hope you are wearing the wedding garment that's going to please him. You know, that practice, I think, during this time of year is pretty important. I have the corridor right here. I'm just going to show you. I hope it starts to play right from where it was. Yes, it's going to. This is at the end of our Purim party a couple years ago. So here's the great corridor, and I'm just going to let this play, and you can see what I was talking about with the corridor. That, I have to tell you, when I walk that corridor, I felt like it. I felt the presence of Papa, and I got to practice. I mean, what that would feel like. I mean, it's a beautiful time of year to practice coming before the King. And when we built that corridor, it really was the climax of the Purim experience, in my opinion. It was in a gym we had access to, and I had music playing in the background, 2 songs, that song, another song that kept rotating. And all our guests got to leave the Purim party and go to there and enter it one at a time, all by yourself. The kids did it too, to go in and walk that corridor by yourself and just imagine what it would be like. And I think we couldn't do anything else for Purim that would be better than that, to really enter what this is about. So quickly, we're going to go through some slides on Purim decorations ideas here. One thing I want to encourage you to do is, the secondhand store is your best friend. I love secondhand stores. I love Habitat for Humanity. Hi, Hadassah, thanks for coming back. I can find so many cool things there. I also love I save all the 50% off coupons from Michaels or Joanne Fabrics, and then I'll go in and I'll get 1 or 2 items and get them half off. I'll just keep collecting things. So definitely some of our treasure trove collection for all the decorations for Purim. Found this bowl and this pitcher at a secondhand store. Some things that some friends in Boise set up on, they were using some of their stuff, their candles, set up a beautiful tables for Purim celebration we did down there. This is my Megillah. Again, I think I showed it to you. It has a little case, and I printed the scroll and put it in there. And then these are the tables that our friends down in Boise set up, as well as their candelabras at the tables and beautiful colors. I just love the colors, very rich, and purples and reds and whatnot, golds and stuff, kind of royalty idea. These are our little Mishloach manot bags, so we make these every year and put little treats in them and give them away. And I attach a little teaching on it, just so people know what Purim is about and why they're getting this little goodies. This, again, is that beautiful, like, I don't even know what the Persian little, I think that's a Turkish coffee, but I don't know. Anyway, I make banners. So the banner, we put the banner up in our house. You could make a banner, put it up in your house as well. And then under it, I don't know if you can see this real well in this light, but when you go into these slides later, you can, the banner, and then just make a beautiful little cushion. So Purim is like, it's Middle Eastern. The culture is going to be sit on the floor and eat, or close to the floor. It's not going to be table chairs kind of thing. So if you can, do it that way. If you can't, though, this is one that we did. Oh, I didn't get to show you that, but we had tables and chairs because that's what we had access to and didn't have anything else. This is another Purim we did. Decorated an office space that we had access to while we were living at the teepee, actually. I sewed all that. All this fabric stuff, I mean, half off cut at Joanne Fabrics can get you some really nice fabric. And then definitely white lights. Love white lights because then it just gets really beautiful at night. This is our cabin all decked out a couple of years ago. So it kind of looks like, it's looked like this for a couple of years now, but this is like the culmination of everything that I've been gathering and stuff. But all this fabric and stuff, it's like upholstery fabric or whatnot that I got at a secondhand store. In the back, they had huge rolls of fabric that I got to make a deal with the owner on. And then this is kind of looking the other way. You can see Hadassah sitting here just enjoying the ambiance. The kids love to just hang out in the space. So I'm giving you ideas. This little thing right here you're going to see next week when I come back to teach on Purim next week. And there's the corridor. And all that paper, by the way, for the corridor I got for free from a press. So if you find a news press or something, a lot of times they'll have ends of rolls, they're called, and they will actually give you a huge roll of gloss paper, whatnot. This is Isaac and Hadassah just kind of hanging out in our Purim thing. I'm going to run through these really quick. Here's some food ideas. This is crepe block, rolled up. Maggie does this great. Rolled up stuffed with meat, boiled dough. Basically, this is representational of Mordecai's hat. Here's hamantaschen, And these are representational of Haman's hat, fig inside. This is hamantaschen, so good. You can put all kinds of things inside the hamantaschen. Just another picture of those. This is, we love Persian chocolates, basically chocolate with cardamom in it and pistachios. There it is again. This is a Persian drink. I can't even remember the name of it. I don't know, but lots of different. And when I serve things, I look for deals. I get I don't have a lot of money, so I don't go into fancy stores to buy stuff. But you can find some amazing things at secondhand stores. These are rosewater cookies. We love rosewater cookies, don't we, Mags? Don't we, Hadassah? So good, so good. That smell. And these are the rosewater cookies. So how you present your food is also part of the celebration. So be creative when you present your food. We have those treats sitting around to nosh on the whole, for a long time, a week or so into it. That's just up at the teepee when I was making rice. This is Persian rice. So, there's a website that I'm going to link you to that has some great Persian recipes. This is monlak, a very, very old candy, that Purim candy that I found the recipe to. You either love it or you hate it. It is a poppy seed candy, and this is how I presented it one year. Another year I presented it like this. So the pans, the pots, the baskets, you can find all kinds of wonderful things at secondhand stores or consignment shops. Here's naan, make homemade naan with tzatziki sauce. It's called mastakar in the Persian language. There's Hadassah as a little girl loving to feast during Purim. All right, just a few dress-up ideas. The girls love dressing up. I love this. We have, when they were little, we had friends over and they would dress up together and just, do whatever they could. There's, the dress I showed you just a little bit ago. There it is on Maggie. Isaac and Maggie. There's Maggie another year. We got NIC let us come into their costume department one year and actually choose costumes to wear for Purim. There's Hadassah. I took my prom dress when I was, this is my prom dress when I was a teenager, and I converted it, or whatever you say. I made it so it fit the girls. There I am in the rain in Boise during our first Purim down there. Isaac and I in Boise. At Purim, he was dressed up like Robin Hood. I was dressed up like Cinderella. And that was a dress I found at a secondhand store.
That's me.
There's Hadassah. Yes, beautiful, beautiful little picture there. There's Maggie, and dressed up so pretty but we actually got some of this jewelry in Boise. They had like a store that actually had some of this. It was an Arab store market. And there she is again. There's Hadassah. Dressed so cute for Purim. There I am. This particular Purim festival. All right, and I just love her. This lady that came to the feast. I love the color. I love it. She found that at a secondhand store. She told me the story of it and how she found that. It was so cool. So they dressed up beautifully. And there is Isaac and I one year. And I've got my slippers on because I'm just done. I'm tired. And there we are one Purim during our teepee time. So Purim party ideas real quick. Here's, had a lot of people coming through buffet lines. Here's our cookie, hamantaschen cookie contest. Here's the play. Got Queen Esther and the King. There's another play that we did. I'm narrating, and then they're acting as I'm narrating it. There I am in the corridor. There's some friends over in the Purim environment we made at our house, and the big feast on the floor. Again, and one thing we do is we put rose water in water, and the girls go around with a basin in that beautiful thing, and I don't even know what that's, a pitcher, and you wash your hands in rose water, because that's one thing they do over there, so that when you bring the food up to your face to eat, because they eat with their fingers a lot, then you smell the rose. Your hands smell like rose water. This is a Purim doll. I'm going to show you next week. So basically, I start like this, and then I put the dress on her and show you what the dress looks like. Show you what the the ornaments that Papa wants on the dress. I'll show you that next week. There we go. So we enter Purim and we learn that the king wants to display his bride to the nations and the splendor he has bestowed on her. So will you let him display his splendor that he's given you to the nations? So enter Purim and invite the Ruach to teach you how to prepare your heart for the spring feasts. And there you have it. I am done. And the lady, then she felt she had to knock on the window to tell me it's time to go. So Shavuot Tov, lady. One very cool quote somebody gave me this week is, truth that is not undergirded by love makes the truth obnoxious and the possessor of it repulsive. I thought that was a pretty cool quote. So let's remember, love, love, love.